A great feature story should grab your attention from beginning to end, and that means you don't put all of your great moments, all of your great characters at the very beginning of the story, because then by the end it's going to fall flat. So you constantly want to be revealing things and giving people surprises. Hi, I'm Joe Fryer, NBC News Now anchor and NBC News correspondent, and this is NBCU Academy. Focus is one of the most important things when it comes to writing and storytelling.
This is Mackinac Island's annual stone skipping tournament, a 4th of July tradition now 50 years old.
In this case, the subject of our story was the stone skipping competition. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the focus. What is it about the stone skipping competition? I would say my focus statement for this story was sort of, come meet the quirky people who are part of this annual tradition on Mackinac Island. My focus was not, what's the economic impact for Mackinac Island hosting this event every year? That's an entirely different focus.
Skip! Competitors are called skippers. Their goal? See how many times they can bounce a rock off the water's surface.
Having a theme for a story is important because it's like a thread, and that theme sort of ties the story together. So when you hear these rock references, the beginning, the middle, and the end, it sort of ties the story together like a thread.
When the island's guests rock on.
The best writers I know spend a lot of time screening and logging their video. And what I try to do is I highlight the best sound bites. I'll make notes of facial expressions or pauses or periods where they might get more emotional, because then I can write better to those sound bites and write better to those moments.
That's winner, winner, chicken dinner.
I also spend a lot of time outlining my script in advance, so I'll start to kind of figure out, okay, I want to start here, I want to get to this sound bite, then I'm going to transition to this moment. The more creative the opening line, I think it really does help grab people's attention. With this story, I use figurative language.
Michigan's Mackinac Island flaunts a kind of beauty that makes postcards jealous.
Really, it's personification. I'm giving human qualities to something that's non-human. I'm saying a postcard can get jealous. We know postcards don't get jealous. Sometimes figurative language, metaphors, similes, personification, hyperbole, they can be useful tools to help you get into a story, help you make transitions. When you're sitting down to write the script, you should remember your track should often feature objective information. So facts, what's the name of the event? When does it happen? What are the rules for the event?
Their throws are scored by judges.
And then your soundbite should often feature subjective information, opinion, emotion, great moments.
It's like a flat tire.
Most of the sound bites in this story were sort of funny moments or opinions, things that made you laugh, things that made you think.
You got to be able to lock your finger around it so you get a good snap, good spin.
But the track throughout was always sort of supplying you with information. If the sound bites convey information, they're just not as memorable. In this story, an example of teeing up a soundbite as my track says,
a challenge that draws contestants from well beyond a stone's throw away.
That sets up the soundbite where then we hear,
You've come all the way from Scotland.
So they sort of hit the shot and finish it up and sort of close out that thought. It's a great way to tell a story because it engages the viewer.
Nice skip! Whoa!
An adjective is a word that modifies or describes a noun. I think we tend to abuse them. Often we say, the shocking video. Well, if the video's shocking, the viewer will figure it out for themselves. Alliteration is a fun writing tool that you can use sparingly. It is when a series of words in a row begin with the same letter. So, the bouncing baby boy. Another one to use on occasion is rhyme. You don't want to go nuts. Rule of threes is something I learned from my mentor, Boyd Huppert. It's hard to explain, but when you list something, it just feels better to list it in 3. If you list it in 2, it doesn't feel like that's enough. If you do 4, it feels like it's too much.
Kurt, Mountain Man Steiner, Mike, Airtight Alibi Williamson, and Glenn, Hard Luck Loy.
One of the coolest writing techniques I learned from my mentor, Boyd Huppert, been my mentor for many, many years. He's a reporter at KARE 11 News in Minneapolis, is that your sentences should end like fireworks. They should explode at the end. You can look at every single sentence you write and realize that if you put the strongest part of the sentence at the end, it just feels better. In the closing line in this story, I say,
As this island proudly celebrates half a century in the Stone Age.
Stone Age is the last part of that sentence because it's kind of just the most powerful, impactful part. Imagine if I wrote that sentence a different way and said, they've been in the Stone Age for half a century. Doesn't have the same impact, right? Half a century is not the strongest way to end that sentence. If you're a young journalist and looking to improve your writing skills, some of the best things you can do is find people whose work you really like and really speaks to you and study it, watch it, write out the scripts and see what is it they're doing. Also, be a voracious reader. Read fiction, read nonfiction, read magazine, read newspapers. Being a voracious reader, I think, is going to make you a better writer. I'm still always looking for ways to improve my writing. I'm constantly studying the work of other people. I'm basically always a student, always learning. I'm also always asking for feedback in anything I do. Even if I get a compliment on a story, don't be surprised if I ask that person, well, what would have made it better?
But these are the real rock stars.
I'm Joe Fryer for NBCU Academy. Thanks for watching.